In full swing here at Quinnipiac. Every single fall sports team was in action this past week, and we're here to analyze and debate all of it. So get comfortable, maybe grab some popcorn, but don't go anywhere. It's time for Bobcat Breakdown. Live and ready to go here at Studio 125. Bobcat Breakdown is back to its normal time. I'm Roberto Casillas, and joining me on the desk to talk everything Quinnipiac sports are Max Schreiber and the Quinnipiac Sports Encyclopedia, Mike Dalton. Guys, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good, Roberto. How are you, Max?
I'm doing well. You know, the Yankees are winning. Everything's going good so far.
That's not great, but hey, anyway, let's get it started. The Quinnipiac men's soccer team got their first victory of the year last Friday with a win against Sacred Heart. However, the Bobcats fell 1-0 against Vermont yesterday and now sit at 1-2-1 to start the season. It has been a little bit of a slow start for this season for the MAC finalists. So, Dalton, tell me, what is the biggest issue with this Bobcats team?
Well, Roberto, I think the biggest issue is going to be winning on the road for the men's soccer team. The last two seasons, they've had a road record under 500. The last time they had a road record over 500, they just happened to get the number 1 seed in the MAC. And I think if they're able to win on the road, they're going to secure that first seed because, let's face it, they have Eamon Whalen, lethal goal scorer. They have a good, solid core defense, and they have a really good goalkeeper in Jared Mazzola. So I think everything is there for the Bobcats. They just have to learn how to win on the road, and the only way you can do that is to go on the road.
Well, Dawn, I agree with everything you said. I mean, I prefer to keep it, though, with the X's and O's on the field as opposed to home play and away play. They have a very solid defense, like you said, and you're obviously going to get good goalkeeping from Jared Mazzola, but I do think that their offense needs a little bit better. Obviously, a big hole that needs to be filled with Rashon Daly leaving, and Eamon Whalen is obviously going to be the number 1 threat on offense for this team, but they need to score, and they need to score more, and although their offense isn't bad, they're outshooting their opponents, but they're being outscored, and they need to have better shot selection. Luckily for them, they're still not in MAC play. Out-of-conference play is a good opportunity for them to just try to get in their groove and find their offense.
Yeah, I don't think offense is too big of a concern right now, honestly, because it's non-conference play, like you said. But I think it'll definitely play a factor when they get in conference.
Yeah, I mean, I think the offense is good. Like you said, this whole team is sound. This was a team that was in the MAC finals last year. So everything's going to go their way besides the deficit of Rashon Daly. But if I have to choose something, I believe that their offense needs to step up in order for them to go back to the MAC finals.
All right.
Yeah, you touched on it, Max. There's no question that Rashon Daly was a key piece for the Bobcats' success since he got here. It's safe to say that him and Eamon Whalen made for a perfect partnership in the Bobcat attack. But he's gone now to the MLS. So, Max, I'm going to start with you in this next one. Which player is going to replace either the style of play or the production of Rashon Daly?
Well, I don't think anyone can really replace Rashon Daly. He was such a focal point last year in Quinnipiac's offense, and right now he's killing it in the MLS out in Cincinnati. But if I'm going to look to someone, I'm going to look to the freshman, Thomas Sekula, the Slovakian national team member, and he really is slid into that spot there that Rashon Daly left. He's starting basically in place of Rashon Daly. He had 2 assists against UMass Lowell, and he's a really good player, has great ball control. He's not as fast as Rashon Daly, but I believe that if someone's going to go in and fill Rashon Daly's hole, it's going to be him.
Max, I disagree with you. I think it's going to be Eamon Whalen. How can it not be Eamon Whalen? He's the reigning MAC Player of the Year, lethal striker for the Bobcats, and now opponents don't have to worry about Rashon Daly blazing down the sidelines with his really good speed. The defenders can put all their attention towards Whalen, but this can give Bobcats like Aurillac Villa, Roman Danilou, and Tomas Sekula, like you just mentioned, more opportunities on offense because they'll have more room on the pitch to work with because everybody will have at least one eye out on Whalen defensively. And I think that if you have to stop the Bobcats, you got to stop Whalen first. I mean, Aurillac Villa has shown a lot of potential so far. He has gotten a lot of play time, but he just doesn't have the resume that Whalen has.
But Whalen last year was the #1 offensive player on this Quinnipiac team. I mean, he was unanimous All-MAC Offensive Team Player of the Year. So teams know that they have their hands full with Iman Whalen. It's really that sidekick, and last year it was Rashon Daly. So there's someone else that has to step up in order to bring this team back to the MAC finals like they were last year, and hopefully if you're Quinnipiac, you win it this year as opposed to being the runner-up. So teams know that Iman Whalen is the #1 offensive threat on this team, but you need someone to come in and be that second option, and I believe that Tomas Sekula is that guy.
I do agree, Max. You do need someone to help complement Eamon Whalen, but I mean, he has proven that he can take that offensive workload on him. I mean, I don't even know how many goals he scored last year. It was like, I'm pretty sure, yeah, lost count after 10. I mean, that's just how good he is. He is such a lethal goal scorer, and I really can't see anybody else taking his spot.
And I don't disagree.
Right, I'm just going to throw Paulo Suarez in the mix there too, guys. But now we're staying in the soccer pitch, but it's time to talk about the women's soccer team. The Bobcats have had a really strong start of the season and sit at 4-1-0. A big reason for that is freshman goalie Megan Phillips. She has started every game and hasn't allowed a single goal in 271 minutes at home this season. Senior Olivia Majewski has been the starting goalie the last 3 seasons, and it's going to be a tough decision. But guys, come conference play, which goalie do you want playing? Dalton, the floor is yours.
Well, it's simple, Roberto. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Megan Phillips, she's had 3 shutouts already, and we're 5 matches into the entire season. I mean, Olivia Majewski, she has played a great 3 years for the Bobcats, but I see it similar to a situation last year with the men's soccer team when Chrysostomos Yakovidis, who had been the undoubtedly starter for the Bobcats in goal, was all of a sudden replaced by Jared Mazzola, who had an unbelievable season last year. He got 9 wins for the Bobcats. Same case goes for the women's soccer team. I think that Phillips is going to take the role of Olivia Majewski for now, unless if she has a huge breakdown or the Bobcats drop 5 or 6 in a row, I can't see them not replacing her.
Yeah, Dawn, I completely agree. You hit it on the nail. And like you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Megan Phillips has been absolutely phenomenal, especially at starting off her career here at Quinnipiac. And especially now out of conference play, it's really just a good opportunity for her to get her feet wet. And she has exceeded all expectations. So once they get into MAC play, if things start to go wrong, they can obviously make a change. But for right now, I think that Megan Phillips has solidified her place in net for Quinnipiac.
Plus, Max, Dave Clark even confirmed to us on Sunday after the Hartford game that Olivia Majewski is currently injured right now, and that other senior goaltender, Charlotte Edmonds, has also been struggling with injuries for a little while. So, you know, I just don't see any reason to rush them back into a starting role if there's not a problem.
No, there's no problem.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're arguing it, but there's really no reason to. It's
Yeah.
clear-cut Megan Phillips.
I agree with you guys, but like we've mentioned, it has been a very strong start for the Bobcats. But there was still that bump in the road last week where they fell 3-0 against Harvard. Last season, the Bobcats finished the season and the team went 6-8-4 overall, and only 3-3-4 on the MAC. Although they made the playoffs, the team struggled with consistency all of last year. So Max, we know they've started great, but will consistency be a problem for the team this year?
Well, Roberto, I mean, I personally can't predict the future. Nobody can. But last year, there was an issue, especially when they started MAC play. They started off 3-0-1. Everything was going good, and then they just hit a wall and finished the season winless going down the stretch. So that really can't be the case this year. Even if you just get 1 or 2 wins, kind of build off of what you saw last year in MAC play, kind of learn from that experience, kind of take it as a slap in the face, and have the confidence and say, we're not going to do that again, and we're going to really come out here and we're going to solidify ourselves, not just in the MAC playoffs for a second year in a row, but this time actually be a force to be reckoned with in those MAC playoffs.
Yeah, Max, I think consistency honestly isn't really that big of a deal in non-conference play, considering that those games don't count as much as conference play. I think inconsistency in conference play will be a much bigger issue because the Bobcats had an amazing first half last year. They ended up beating Niagara for the first time on the road, I believe. And then all of a sudden, second half of the season comes around, and they were a completely different team, and in a bad way. I mean, they had a colossal collapse. Like Roberto just said, 3-3-4 in the MAC. I mean, you can't have that if you want to be able to get to a MAC championship, which this team has the potential to do because, let's face it, when I was at the Hartford game on Sunday, they had a shutdown defense. Nothing was getting by Kylie Lance in center back position, and Megan Phillips has been unstoppable so far.
Predicted to finish number 2 in the preseason, so just that says something. All right, that was talking soccer. Now let's transition indoors and send it to our volleyball specialist, Eric Kerr, to tell us the latest on the volleyball team. Take it away, Eric.
Thanks, Roberto. The Quinnipiac women's volleyball season has been in full swing thus far, and the team has been playing at a huge step up from last year. Quinnipiac has been out on the road in their first 2 weeks of play in invitational tournaments. The team stopped in Baltimore to play in the Morgan State Invitational. The tournament started out with 2 losses at the hands of William and Mary and Towson, but closed out nicely with the win against Seton Hall. Senior Callie Oates led the way for Quinnipiac in kills at 31 for the weekend. Head coach Kyle Robinson inserted freshman Ariana Diaz into the starting center spot, spreading the ball to her teammates with 60 assists on the weekend. From their win against the Pirates, the Bobcats then took 3 straight at the Knights Fall Classic. The team escaped with a victory in 5 sets against NJIT, and then swept Farley Dickinson and Morgan State in the Invitational in 3 sets. Quinnipiac will travel out to Hamilton, New York for their final out-of-conference games. They will play in the Ellis Rowland Memorial Tournament, take on Colgate, Rutgers, and New Hampshire. That's all from me. Back to you, Roberto.
Thank you very much, Eric. Great work as always. Senior blocker Kaylee Oates became a co-captain for the Bobcats last season and had her best year since joining the team. So guys, will Oates continue to lead this team, or will a newcomer step up?
Max, you want to take that first?
I mean, I think that everyone's going to step up on this team, whether or not it's Oates or not. I think they're going to. Kyle Robinson, first-year head coach, is really going to get the most out of his players. He's a 4-time Northeast Conference Coach of the Year back at Long Island University. He went to Oklahoma, so he kind of has that big school experience. And now he's bringing both of those experiences here to Quinnipiac, and I think it's going to be a really good year for this volleyball team.
Yeah, I can definitely see Callie Oates being a huge contributor offensively, especially with the slide technique that she uses up in the front court. But I also have to mention Ariana Diaz replacing Maria Pansari for a good portion of these sets so far at the beginning of the year. I mean, Maria Pansari, ever since she came in as a freshman, she started basically every single set that the Bobcats have played since. So it's kind of surprising to see a freshman especially come in and take over, especially when you have another reliable setter in Nicole Migliozzi, who has also received a little playing time, which she really didn't get a lot of her freshman year.
All right, it's time for our first commercial break, but when we return, the latest on field hockey and rugby, and of course, our final roars. Don't go anywhere.
They call me Prince like I'm royalty or something. But the places I've lived ain't no palaces. So I don't need grilled salmon or a new scratching post. Just give me a cardboard box and a can of tuna and we're good. You can even change my name. I'm cool being the kitty formerly known as Prince.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. The field hockey team decided to start the season a little differently this year. For the first time ever, Becca Main's team made a cross-country trip to California to play the first 3 games of the season. The Bobcats faced California, UC Davis, and Stanford, and went 0-3 in their trip to the Golden State. So tell me, Dalton, did the trip help or hurt the team in the long run?
Oh, Roberto, I mean, that's got to be a tough flight back. I honestly think it hurt this team a lot. I mean, the only way I could see them having, any help in these first 3 games over in California is if it helps give them a wake-up call at all and make them compete a lot harder in the Big East. But other than that, I mean, to be outscored 10-2, that hurts.
Well, Dalton, I'll have to disagree that you think that it hurt them. I actually do think that it helped them. I understand maybe that plane ride all the way from California to Connecticut, it might have stung a little bit that they had such a tough road trip. But, I mean, this was a team that played, when they played Stanford, Stanford was the number 21, was the 21st ranked team in the nation. I mean, they went up against some really tough competition, but when it comes to Big East play, that tough competition is only going to prepare them for Big East opponents, and I think that it's really going to prepare them and have them get off on the right foot here in Hampton.
Max, my only counter to you is that the Bobcats have to face UConn, who is also in the Big East, and that they're the 4th-ranked team coming into this year in the nation. They have won national championships in the past. I mean, they've faced plenty of ranked opponents before. I mean, and for them to lose to 21st place Stanford, I mean, how do you think they'll get better facing UConn?
I don't think you can look at that UConn game as a win any single year. UConn is the Alabama of college women's field hockey, but when you go against those other teams like Georgetown and Temple and Providence and play, games like that, I think that California trip is really where you're going to see the Bobcats were actually benefited from that California trip.
I don't know. I mean, I just feel like if it's not a super close game, which, I got to give them credit that they only lost by 3, and yeah, that could help them in the long run, but I just don't see it happening right now.
All right, guys, we know they play in a very tough conference that, as you mentioned, Dalton, includes arguably a national contender in the country in UConn. But last year, I remember Josh Silverman explaining in this very show how the team was going to make the playoffs last season. Ultimately, they didn't. But this year, the hope once again is to try and reach the playoffs for the first time since joining the Big East. They were predicted to finish 7 before the season, same as last season. But Max, is this year the year the Bobcats finally make the playoffs?
Yes, I believe that it is. I think that they've been in the Big East long enough. They're prepared. Becca Main has finally gotten a good groove in this conference, and I think that, these past couple of years really have not gone great for the Bobcats. Last year, they had a really good opportunity to make the playoffs. They beat Georgetown here at home. Everyone was really excited, but then lost to Liberty, who was the 20th ranked team in the nation. Then they lost to Villanova, and then they eventually would lose to Providence. But they did finish last season on a 3-game winning streak, so there's a lot of confidence going into this season, and I think it's going to show finally for the first time in the Big East.
Max, I disagree with you completely. Since the inaugural season in the Big East, in 2016, the Bobcats have had a losing overall and conference record. Their overall record has improved by only a game every year they have been in the Big East. Plus, last night's Sports Pause field hockey beat reporter Izzy Agricola made her predictions in conference play, and she believes the Bobcats will go 3-4 this year, which is the same record that they had last time. So I just don't see them making the playoffs if they can't even get a winning record in non-conference and conference.
There are some very dynamic players on this team. Senior forward Amanda Bloom and redshirt sophomore forward Brooke Whipke led the team in points last season, But this is a very talented squad. Max, tell me, who's your go-to player on this team?
Well, Roberto, I believe that it's Valerie Perkins. And last year, Valerie Perkins was 4th on the team in goals with 4 goals. But, now she's a senior, and she's gone through the ropes with this team. And she's going to be a culture setter for this team in the locker room and on the field. Although she might not be the most talented player on this team, I think that she's itching to have a really good final year in a Bobcat uniform, and she's going to really set the tone for this Bobcat team.
Max, I think it's going to be Brooke Whipke, like Roberto mentioned. She led the team in points last season. This team's younger, more on the offensive side than the defensive side, and I think they really need someone to look up to that's going to be here for a while. Valerie Perkins, that's great that she's a senior and she can provide that senior leadership, but Brooke Whipke, she's going to be here for another 2 years. She has 2 more years of eligibility, so I can't really see them looking up to Valerie Perkins more.
Now let's move on to the rugby field, shall we? Senior center Minka Maples knows what it's like to be a national champion. She won 2 in her first 2 years as a Bobcat. Last year, she led the team in tries and was named NIRA All-American. Maples didn't play Saturday on the Bobcats' 1-point victory over Penn State. Dalton, I'll start with you. Will the team be able to succeed without Minka Maples on the field this season?
Absolutely, Roberto. They will be able to have success this season. 6 freshmen started in last Saturday's match versus Penn State, one of the best club rugby teams in the country. Freshman and sophomore classes, they're not going to bring a lot of physicality like the Bobcats have been known for in the past couple of years, winning those national championships. But because they're on the smaller side, they're faster. I look at Clara Lamal Brown. She accounted for both of the team's tries on Saturday, and she used her speed both times.
Well, Dalton, I'm going to have to completely disagree with what you said. I mean, last year this team lost 3 pivotal seniors after winning 3 consecutive national championships. Last year, they got bounced very early in the playoffs, so this year, without their best player in Maples, you really think that they're going to be better? Yeah, I just don't see it.
I honestly do. I mean, I think they have a lot of really good recruits, especially in their freshman class this year. They've been switching around positions, and they've still been able to perform. And Penn State is a good club rugby team. They have been national championship contenders forever, and I think that they have what it takes.
All right, guys, you know what day it is. You've been waiting for it. It's Hot Take Tuesday. The guys are going to hit us with their fall sports hottest take. Let's get right into it, shall we? What is the hottest take for all fall sports?
I'm excited what your hot take is, Max.
Well, I know you, from going off of what we said before, you're going to disagree with me here, Dalton, but
really?
Field hockey will not only make the playoffs, but they will win a game in the Big East playoffs, okay? They're going to ride that momentum in their first ever Big East playoff appearance. They're going to take that momentum, they're going to be excited, and they're going to go out and they're going to get their first win.
All right, Max, I'm going to have to lift up my jaw from the ground from that one. But my hot take is that not only is the women's soccer team going to get better, they're going to be undefeated in MAC play. And that's the first time a team will go undefeated in conference play since 2009. They just have a stacked lineup. And they've been predicted to be top 5 in the season in the MAC preseason poll. And 3 of their 4 teams that are in the top 5 are all home matches. So that is a perfect advantage for the Bobcats, especially since they're undefeated so far at home.
Wow. Wow, Dalton.
You're gonna take a field hockey team that has never had a winning record, conference and non-conference.
I mean, I'm not saying that the women's soccer team's going to be bad in MAC play, but undefeated, I mean, that's a hot take.
Hey, I don't know. I might think that field hockey's a little hotter.
All right, guys. Well, it's getting really hot in here in the desk as well.
It is.
So after this segment, so I think we just need to cool off a little bit and take a quick break. But when we come back, the guys will tell you their final roars. You know we've been waiting for it. We'll be right back.
They call me Prince like I'm royalty or something. But the places I've lived ain't no palaces. So I don't need grilled salmon or a new scratching post. Just give me a cardboard box and a can of tuna and we're good. You can even change my name. I'm cool being the kitty formerly known as Prince.
I'm Jenny Garth, and as a mother of 3, I know kids worry about a lot of things. Getting enough food to eat shouldn't be one of them. But here in America, that is a real worry for 1 in 5 children. This is unacceptable, and something Feeding America is working to solve. Through a nationwide network of food banks, Feeding America serves virtually every community in the United States, including yours. See how you can help your community. Visit feedingamerica.org. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're Feeding America.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly and put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back to our final segment and your favorite segment, because the guys will tell you their final roars. So, Max, why don't we start with you?
Bobcat Nation, I get it. You go on your friends' Snapchats and Instagram stories, you see them at those big Big Ten and SEC football games with hundreds and thousands of people, and you get a little bit jealous. I understand, but this hundreds and thousands of people, but however, Quinnipiac athletics is nothing to glance over. Baseball won the MAC championship this past spring. Men's soccer has a chance to head back to the conference championship. Field hockey always plays big-time schools in the Big East, and winter sports recently has gotten a lot of national recognition. Bobcats, you chose to attend Quinnipiac, so stop looking at what you don't have and start looking at what you do have, because it's pretty darn good.
Sometimes out-of-conference play can separate the goods from the greats. The past 2 seasons, the Quinnipiac volleyball team won 2 out of 23 total out-of-conference matches. Well, this year, they have already won 4 matches, and they've only played 6 times. And the last time they did won more than 2 matches out of conference was in 2016, when they happened to win a program record 21 matches and make the MAC championship for the first time ever. Considering the Bobcats had 2 players transfer schools and they lost several key offensive players last year due to injury, they played good. But now that they have a healthy lineup and not to mention a senior class that's been a part of every MAC tournament win in program history so far, they're ready to play great.
I want to talk to you, the athlete that did not make it. Most of us love sports but did not make it to the play at a professional level or even college level know this feeling. Your alarm sounds early in the morning, but today you did not hit the snooze button to go back to bed another 5 minutes, because today you're going to play the sport you love. Possibly, it's been a while since you realized that the dream of becoming a professional athlete is not going to happen, but that does not matter anymore. Now you play to try and showcase your talent to yourself, or at least what's left of it. When you go to play, you run into your brothers that sports has given you. Perhaps different circumstances have made it harder for you to see each other often, but sports will always be the one thing that unites you. Every time you put on your jersey and lace up your sneakers, cleats, or skates, you realize that you don't need anything else. Once you're there and the game is about to start, it's a fact that you forget about all your problems. Finally, you remember that your dream of playing pro is over. It doesn't mean that you have to stop loving the game that you love. Then the game starts, but that is just a whole nother story. Well, that's all we have for tonight, guys. It was a great show with heated debate on a lot of Quinnipiac sports. Make sure to check out our website, q30tv.com, and make sure to follow us on Twitter at Q30Sports. For Mike Dalton, Max Schreiber, and all of our producing team behind the scenes, I'm Roberto Casillas. We'll see you next week.